بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I would like to thank جمعية دمي and also Dr. Mohammed Sali and the other member of scientific organizer for this outstanding efforts in arrangement of the sequence of talks, because they make the ideas and sequence of ideas very easy to reach to the audience. For the beginning, they start with standardization of the blood transfusion practice, and then GMB standard. Then Dr. Jafar talked about risk identification and how to be proactive in your risk identification. Then my turn, how to be retrospective responder to the event analysis. So, mashallah, very excellent organization. طيب, today, inshallah, talk, we will talk about introduction about digital transformation or in the blood donation transfusion surveillance program within Saudi MOH. Also, we will illustrating the transfusion event analysis outcome for the past 3 years with comparison to international benchmark. Then we will highlight the gap analysis for both reporting the transfusion incident and also the analytical approach. And we will give some recommendation regarding enhancement of transfusion safety through improved IT system and practice, and then take-home message. Okay, for the first topic, as you know, most of you, mashallah, as expert in the blood bank, know the concept of hemovigilance, which is the surveillance procedures covering the entire transfusion chain from donation, processing of the blood, and its components and their provision of transfusion to the patient and their follow-up. It includes both reporting and investigation analysis of adverse events related to the entire transfusion chain and taking action to prevent their occurrence or reoccurrence. Also, hemovigilance has a fundamental role in the quality system in the transfusion chain, and its relevance is a relevant factor in data-driven changes in transfusion practice. Okay. For the effort that MOH already in process for transformation, in digital transformation in the blood donation and transfusion surveillance, previously, most of you know that all the blood bank in the MOH from central hospital base and blood transfusion center was relying on a system or program called Yaqaba. This system is under our center, Health Supportive Center, and this system mainly for daily monitoring of the inventory, and also it contains a functionality, small functionality for reporting of blood donor events and transfusion events. But this system has multiple limitations. For example, the end users is only for MOH, and the type of reporting system, it was an open reporting system. And for the audience, we would just want to illustrate this point because when you make a reporting system, you have 3 choices. Maybe you choose an open system, which is the ID of the reporter, and all the person included in the event is known to everybody. And there is anonymous reporting in which the ID of the reporter and the persons included in the event is not appear to anyone. And this has a limitation that you cannot follow up the investigation and corrective action. And the open has a limitation that it's discourage the reporting. And the last one is confidential, in which the ID of the reporter is known, but under legal protection and confidential. And this is the most type of reporting that can enhance the reporting mechanism and encourage reporting, and also facilitate the follow-up of investigation and corrective action. We still with Yaqaba. Yaqaba also, it was a retrospective. There is no specific time of reporting. And the included items in the functionality of the system was for donor and recipient hemovigilance only. So there is no process to report about processing, storage, and transportation. And also in MOH, we have the Sentinel Events platform, which is under umbrella of General Administration of Quality and Patient Safety. And it includes all the Sentinel events in the healthcare, including blood transfusion, as per definition, by international definition. Actually, it includes 2 types of transfusion events, which is ABO incompatibility, and also contaminated units which has reached the patient through transfusion. So the items in the Sentinel Events platform was that the end user for MOH and non-MOH currently for the private sector, and type of reporting system is confidential. And the most important advantage of this platform that it contains a full process of RCA, root cause analysis, which allow for the all levels, the users, the administrative level, the regulatory level, to follow the RCA procedures and how the reporting system and corrective action build and how they can follow up these actions. It's also mandated by memo from MOH that it should be reported within 72 hours. And this is only for two types of Sentinel events, as I mentioned before, ABO and contaminated, ABO incompatibility and contaminated units for transfusion. And this concept missing the complete hemovigilance scope because as we said in the definition, it should be a full surveillance program and reporting program from donation to transfusion. The new transformation now that we have replaced YAQAZA system with a unified blood bank information system which covers the entire MOH blood bank. And as you know, when the system is built, it's make a coding for each incident that may occur, so end users can use it for make all the inputs in the system are clear. The new transformation for Sentinel Events platform that they upgrading this system now and include what they called mandatory reporting incidents. Mandatory reporting incidents, inshallah, it will include all the transfusion events, all the adverse reaction, all near miss, which inshallah, hopefully to improve the volume of reporting and also the quality of reporting. Now we will go through next slide to just compare what occur now with the best practice from UK and USA. The hemovigilance in system in UK and reporting system depend mainly on two types of portal for reporting. One of them is a serious adverse blood reaction and events, and the other is Medicine and Healthcare Product Regulatory Agency. The most important or interesting point that I want to share today, that when they began in 1996, they only report 169 initial report, and the reporting at that time is only voluntary reporting only. By 2021, 25 years later, a total of 4,088 reports were received from all NH Trust Health Boards in the UK because it was professionally mandated and confidential anonymized reporting system, as we mentioned in the first slide. So the concept of hemovigilance and the best practice in UK take a long time to reach that level. So this encourages us also that even we are taking too much time to reach to mature hemovigilance system, but if we are just follow and ensure that we are learned from our errors and also from the best practice lessons, inshallah we will get a full hemovigilance system in the KSA. And this, for the other reporting system in UK, which is MHRA, it's not accept reports related to clinical errors. Both these inputs from both sides are taken and analyzed just to ensure that there is no duplication in the entry. Also, I want to highlight that both portals contain serious adverse reaction and serious adverse events where components was transfused, and also serious events where components was not transfused in the concept of near miss events. For the history in USA, it began with CDC, National Healthcare Safety Network, which is a USA web-based surveillance system originally developed to capture data about hospital-acquired infection. They also take a long time from 2006 until 2023, and also they are in progress. What they are achieved today, that they have also incident code regarding each possibility or potentiality for any error in the transfusion chain. Also, they take a long time, and they are in progress of enhancement. So, inshallah, hemovigilance system in KSA will reach, inshallah, the better reports, inshallah. طيب, now we will talk about events analysis outcome. Okay. For the last 3 years, 2021, 2022, 2023, our KPI for transfusion, for events reporting was 0.05 report for 10,000, and then 0.1, and then 0.07. And this explained by that we have only 2 incidents to report, as we explained before, ABO incompatible blood transfusion and transfusion contaminated blood. While if we see the comparison in all categories for UK system, we will find that they have 19.6 report per 10,000 component transfused, then the same numbers, 18.6 and 19.6 for 10,000 transfusion, 10,000 component transfused. They have about, in the report that they are published on their website, by the way, all the information here already published in their website, they have 49 hemolytic transfusion reaction. Most of them was ABO incompatible blood transfusion, and 2 of them caused this to the patient. And they have 2 cases about transmission of contaminated blood, TTI positive, and the other will, after the analysis of and remove all the duplicated data from both portals, they have 1,080 and 18 other events. The analysis of morbidity and mortality data, which is the blood transfusion is a causal or contributory factor, was 19.5% with temporary harm or no harm, and 7.7% with a permanent harm, and 1.8% with a death. While if we compare our morbidity and mortality data for blood transfusion as a causal or contributory factor, we will find that we have 50% no harm, 50% temporary harm, and 0% for permanent harm, and 0% for death. Again, this is explained that we are initiated the program as a strategic program, hemovigilance program, in about the middle of 2023, and we are in progress to modify all our digital platform, either the unified blood bank information system or sentinel events with mature RCA methodology in sentinel and mandatory platform in MOH. Now, we will compare the contributory factor. What is the contributory factors? As you know, when you make RCA methodology or root cause analysis for an incident, you reach to the contributory factors that lead to that incident. By the way, if anyone is interested to know about RCA methodology, the website of Sentinel Events Platform contain all the educational material and contain a very simple tool that you can practice on it, how to make an RCA. So the data that we get from the 3 years analysis show that we have most of the contributory factor relating to the task factor and staff factor. And then also, communication. Communication all the time is a factor in all healthcare incidents. And then educational and training and work environment with the same category with communication. And we will see in the next slide there is a significant number of incidents related to equipment and IT system. If we compare this data for 2022 and 2021 data for UK, we will find very nice observation that they have also the same point with the task and staff factor. But they more organized in the distribution, the work. Actually, they are make a modification in 2021. They make a tool after RCA to validate the causes of RCA. And they divided the groups into 4 groups: situational, local working, organization, external communication. They put these categories in the 4 main categories. And also the results, as you see in the red line and this blue line, that in the staff factor and task factor. So we want to highlight what is the task factor, what is the staff factor, because we want to engage you in the real scenario that occur or may occur and how it reflects on these factors. Okay, when you go through this platform, you used to find examples for each contributory factor you will click. He will give you questions with real examples to ensure that your understanding and choice of the real cause for your event. For example, for some scenarios, and I will show you I'll share you some scenarios while we are illustrating this point. If you see the third one, the task factor, which is task design. For task design, he gives you opportunity. Is your incident related to too complex task design, too much information, or too many tasks to perform at the same time? One of the incidents occur because the technologist in the night shift, as per her job description, she should receive the blood units from the night campaign and go through processing of the blood units while she receiving the transfusion request at the transfusion lab, because it's a small scale of transfusion request. So preventable error occur because she have a multiple task in two departments and she switched two types of transfusion request. Another example for the West one, it's related to policy procedures, regulation, or compliance to it. Many transfusion specialists have difficulty in compliance to the standard or SOP that they have. So if maybe he ensure or complain that it take too much steps or too much time, or the policy and procedure is not accessible at the time that he need. So we should investigate the barriers that lead to incompliance with the policy and procedures. Also, there is a question about decision making. Sometimes the transfusion specialists in the lab find difficulty in reaching in decision-making ads. For example, or many scenarios already listed in our data that a nurse cannot find the checklist for transfusion at the time of administration or the time of receiving the blood from the blood bank. Or she cannot get advice from the senior technologist to prioritize the task. For example, one of the incidents also, it was about that many technologists at that day cannot go to their work, and the technologists have a lot of transfusion requests, which was elective and from ER. And because he cannot prioritize the work and he cannot reach to his senior specialist, also he make a switch for a transfusion request. This is many examples and scenarios related to the task factor. For the staff factor, there is a statement in the RCA template talking about this. Is all of these are examples. There are many, but I just illustrate some of, just choose one or three from each point because of the time. Okay, one of the statements talking about is related to physical, psychological capability of the staff. Most of blood bankers have a common feature that they are in not sufficient number of technologists per the scope of work. So you find the stress, fatigue, burnout, or social issue. Another important and interesting point about the personality issues or cognitive factors contributed to the event. There is also a significant number from the scenario talking about overconfidence of the blood banker. Overconfidence that we are, okay, we violate the rules many times, we violate the policies many times, and nothing happened. But actually, one time it happened, and ABO incompatibility occurred. Or one of lab technologists, his personality always risk taker. Okay, related to the equipment and technology, also there is a significant number of scenarios related to HIS system and integration with LI system, and now, inshallah, integration with BBI system about usability and display and integrity. So we will talk in these details in advance in the next slide, inshallah. طيب. About gap analysis, now we take our data and we need to make a gap analysis about reporting and analytical approach. So in their website, highlight many illustrating methodology, but the most important, in my opinion, is benchmarking data and SHOT Gap Analysis Tool 2022, and we will discuss it now. For benchmarking data, they make a very simple flowchart about how you will compare your data with other organizations. So they stated that when you will begin the comparison, you will choose an organization with a similar comparable size, similar clinical provision, and similar component usage. Then if there is a significant difference in the reporting level, either lower or higher, if lower, you should ask yourself, is lower reporting level at your organization is acceptable and known because robust mitigation are in place to reduce error? And I think most of us will say no. Then, if unexpected low, then do you need to review the reporting definition for under-reporting? Okay. Do you need to review your local reporting platform to ensure that all transfusion-related incidents are communicated to the transfusion team? And this is also another lesson that we learned, that we found that Sentinel Events Analysis Platform, just talking to the quality and patient safety personnel, and no reporting to the transfusion staff, either the central blood bank, the supplier, or hospital-based blood bank. So this is one of the areas that we make improvement to ensure that all incidents reach to the transfusion team. For the high reporting level, the question, do you need to review your current risk mitigation? Yes. Yes, this is a very important point. Do you have a high number of withdrawn reports, for example, mild reaction, which do not need to be reported? And finally, they stated that, remember, high reporting rate is not necessarily a bad thing, but could be an indication to some underlying issues. For furthers can be put into place, can procedurally identify areas for improvement. Have you escalated by governance and risk management? Okay. For the second tool in their website, which is called SHOT Gap Analysis Tool 2022, they put SHOT recommendation in practice. This is the main, this is an Excel sheet on their website. This is the main page. They put the recommendation and action by and current activity, level of compliance, further action, risk associated for non-compliance. Then they highlighted the most 4 recommendations that you will work on. The first recommendation about appropriate management of anemia and making safe transfusion decision. And this action actually should done by hospital management, the hospital utilization committee, and clinical staff and transfusion laboratory. And this part, inshallah, I think Dr. Khalid Batarfi will talk about it for patient blood management. The second item is safe system. Here they are talking about IT system. Safe system to ensure safe transfusion, and this also action should be done by hospital senior management, clinical and transfusion staff, and also hospital senior management. This is also, we will talk about it in the next slide, about the role of IT and safe IT in ensuring the safety transfusion checklist are built in. All the functionalities regarding forcing function and alert and bob out should be present in the HI system, in the transfusion module, and to be integrated with the BBIS. We will talk about that. The third message is about effective implementation of appropriate intervention following incident investigation. And this is also a very important point that Dr. Jaffer covered it in a partially way. He talked about risk assessment before the incident. Then after you make a good scoring or efficient scoring for your risk, you should choose what the effective methodology or corrective action should be built. Most of us know that there is three types of corrective action: strong, intermediate, and weak. There is a tool called Action Hierarchy. You can find it also on the website of Sentinel Events. The stronger action usually related to build a system vigilance. Don't rely on individual vigilance. For example, if you put a forcing function on URT or alert or pop out, this is a strong action. For intermediate corrective action, for example, like if you make a double verification for a step, this is an intermediate action because you rely partially on the system vigilance and individual vigilance. The weak intervention or the weak action usually when you rely on individual personal vigilance. For example, if you change the policy and procedures, if you make a memo, this is all of this under the category or under the definition of weak intervention. So this recommendation talk about how you can train your staff, your blood banker, your transfusion specialist about when they are sharing in corrective action, they should have the well knowledge how to choose the correct level of corrective action according to the level of incident. The fourth recommendation is about learning from excellence and day-to-day events, and this is actually what we are planning to share to begin today, and inshallah in the next days and months, how to share the lessons with the other stakeholders to avoid the recurrence and occurrence from the recurrence of these events. Now we will go to recommendation regarding enhancement of transfusion safety through improved IT system and practice. Also on the chart they put 10 steps in the transfusion pathway, and this is actually that we want, inshallah, to establish in transfusion module. This 10 steps is from the beginning of decision to obtain, to transfuse and consent the patient, request sample taking, sample and request receipt, testing, component selection, component labeling, component collection, and also the authorization and the administration and monitoring process for transfusion and documentation for any reaction. I just highlight some of elements because it's a long procedures and need to be read carefully. So for the first one about the decision to transfuse and consent the patient, they talk about functionality present in the IT system, which is CDDS, or Clinical Decision Support for appropriate transfusion, and also this is related to patient blood management because it depends on reduced inappropriate transfusion. So how to apply the level, the acceptable level for transfusion, for hemoglobin, for coagulation profile, for anything that related to transfusion. Second one is reduced risk in delay in transfusion, and actually this is very nice functionality because we receive in MOH multiple KPI regarding delay of transfusion, but it's not calculated from our side and not calculated based on validated numbers. So if we build this functionality in the system, it will help a lot. Another item is reduced risk of failure to meet specific requirements. This is also related to patient blood management.
Ramona, 2 minutes left.
Okay. And reduce risk of pulmonary complication. So I advise to go to this website and review all items related to this 10 steps in the transfusion pathway. Now, we will just take home message. We have 4 blocks to achieve if we want to build a national hemovigilance system in the right way. First one, on the level of the organization, is to build a just culture. Just culture is a balance between system accountability and individual accountability. This photo is very nice because it shows that if there's one of them in imbalance, you cannot get a complete safe health practice. The second one is training in hemovigilance on a national level, from the operational side, from administration side, from the regulatory side, how to report, how to make a professional analysis, and also to follow the quality of investigation. The third one is about how to select corrective action, as we mentioned before, action hierarchy tool. And the last one is how to share your lessons and how to get feedback after improvement. This is brief about hemovigilance and what we do here as an effort in MOH, and inshallah, hoping this strategic project to next year, inshallah, to achieve more outcome regarding this. Thank you.